You create your own luck in your life. And the formula to luck is very simple. It's ambitious people, they focus on education, and people that are maybe not so ambitious, they focus on distractions. Your purpose oftentimes is what combines the two of those things. It combines your greatest gift and it also combines your biggest challenge. Sometimes I'm prepared and sometimes opportunity comes my way, but I never take action. And so if you're prepared and there's opportunity, make sure you take action. And if action alone isn't enough, make sure you take bold action.
What's the secret weapon behind every top CEO and entrepreneur? A game-changing executive assistant. Hermessi gives you access to elite EAs who supercharge your productivity. From payroll and admin to social media and customer support, they handle it all so you can focus on growth and big picture decisions. These aren't your average assistants. They're expertly trained, thoroughly screened, and equipped with the latest AI tools to work smarter and faster. Ready to delegate and dominate? Get 15% off your first 2 months with code INSPIRE15. Don't wait. Visit Hermessi, that's HERMESSI.com, and take back your time today. What does it take to build a thriving business, lead high-performing teams, and embrace challenges as stepping stones to success? Today's guest has spent her career proving that mindset, strategy, and innovation are the keys to breaking barriers and achieving lasting results. From coaching over 100 professionals, success in mastering automation and leadership systems, she's redefined what it means to scale a business in a rapidly changing world. As the creator of the Billion Dollar Banker podcast, she shares insights from top entrepreneurs and industry leaders, uncovering the strategies that fuel resilience, growth, and high-impact leadership. I'm lindavo, and on this episode of Inspired by Success, we're diving deep with Nicole Perrone, a visionary leader, business strategist, and entrepreneur who's helping professionals think bigger, work smarter, and turn obstacles into opportunities. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Nicole.
Thank you for having me, Linda. I think that was a better bio than I could write myself. So thank you for such a kind introduction. That was great. I'm excited to be here today.
Me too. If I was to meet you at age 18, what's one thing about you that would completely surprise me compared to who you are today?
Well, at age 18, I really wasn't too focused, believe it or not, on career pathing. At that point in my life, I was getting ready for school, and really what mattered to me was a completely different set of priorities. So I'd say, most people probably characterized me when I was younger as somebody that lacked the attention span necessary to kind of get through school, but I made it through college somehow, some way. And so I think sometimes a lot of people are surprised that I was a bit like ADHD as a child, and so interestingly enough, it now really serves me in my careers today. And so I don't know, maybe that would surprise some people. I'm not sure.
The the ADHD,
The
yeah, because
ADHD, I was all over the place.
and how have you managed to channel that now into making it work for you in your entrepreneurial journey?
Well, I think ultimately the thing like that characterizes ADHD is like you just can't focus on one thing at one time, and so you really excel in environments that are more entrepreneurial, where you're doing multiple things. And so as long as you can kind of scale that and work within those bounds, I think you constantly need to be keeping the attention level. And so I'm kind of fluxing from different businesses day to day, different tasks. No day is the same, and so that really works. That really works for me. I couldn't imagine doing kind of the same thing every day. That wouldn't be my style. So it serves me today. Not so much in school. It didn't serve me, but we made it either way.
Yeah, I totally agree. I wish they taught entrepreneurship early for people.
Right?
We'd have
I know.
yeah, a more engaged society as well. But let's take it back and tell us about your career journey in the leadership. So you've been from mortgage broker to SVP of production. So what was the defining moment that set you apart, especially in such a competitive industry?
Yeah, I think ultimately in any sales industry, it's really commitment. It's grit, it's consistency. You got to not give on up on yourself. You got to be willing to fail and learn as you go, and just continue to believe in yourself. And I think that's some of the big defining characteristics that I see in some of the top producers in our industry, and myself. So the broker world, the correspondent world, whatever world it is, whatever you're selling, I think it starts with, especially in the beginning, that belief in what you can accomplish, and what you're excited to do. I love what I do. I love helping customers. I love mortgage financing. I love real estate. I love business. And so as time has gone on, I've really continued to excel in this world. It's been
Tell us
fun.
about some of your business ventures and some of the challenges that you had to go through, and did you had to pivot multiple times? I'm curious to know the tough stories in the entrepreneurship world, because that's where the juice is. You know,
Yeah.
yeah, the hardest parts of the journey that define us and make us who we are. I'm curious to know those type of stories as well.
Yeah, I remember when I got out of college, it was in 2007. It was one of the hardest job markets here in the US. Unfortunately, we were going through a major recession, and I was really discouraged at the time. I was like, how am I going to find a job and make a living? Unemployment rates at an all-time high, and everything was so expensive. And I decided to get into the sales industry, which was not easy. It's an industry that sometimes, despite your best efforts, the reward isn't there right away. It takes time, and I think that was the hardest part in the beginning, was kind of waiting for success to come and staying patient. I was in my early to mid 20s when I started in the mortgage industry, and I had an incredible mentor at the time, who kind of showed me the ropes. But it was difficult. It was hard to sometimes kind of manage your income, even when you did have an amazing month, and the money would come in, and then the next month wasn't so good. And so it was really a little bit scary. But it was interesting. I never kind of fell on a plan B. It was always like I had to make this work. And so as hard as times got, I never took a second job. I never did anything else. I just stayed completely focused on my mission to be successful in this business. And I think that's kind of the key. I think you have to stick with it. You got to be patient. And so that was really hard to do in your 20s when you're really looking to make money and you want to get started. Patience is the name of the game. But I had some difficult times, I remember buying my first house, in my late 20s, and feeling terrified, even though I was in the mortgage industry for a long time. It was tough. And I think that's the story most people, like your audience, might understand too, is like in the beginning of anything you do, it's scary. There's so much uncertainty. You're not sure, am I doing the right thing? Is this all going to work out? And sometimes the people around us don't necessarily encourage us because they're like trying to protect us, right? Hey, maybe you don't want to open that business, or maybe you don't want to go into that commission only industry. And there's a lot of ups and downs, and you don't have the certainty that maybe a salary might give you. And so I think that was one of the hardest things too, was following my path and my intuition, despite what other people's opinions were, and despite, that uncertainty that I felt at the time.
Yeah, that's very interesting, because I know that I've heard other podcasts about the real estate and that industry. It's just, it's like a famine or feast sometimes, and then given that if you do it sales commission based only, that would be even more tougher as well. So I'm guessing there's a few characteristics that are built along the way in order for you to stay in that industry until now. So, and then you built up that resilience from that time too. So I'm just curious, where did all this resilience and that mindset come from? Because you seem to have worked good under pressure, like because you that uncertainty. Some people can't handle that, and they go back to
Hmm.
having a 9 to 5 job. And you
Hmm.
just mentioned that you don't have a plan B. So did this come from somewhere, like far
Yeah.
back? Where did this grit come from? I'm curious to know.
It's a good question. I think I jokingly say, like, real estate is in my DNA. My mom was a realtor when I was younger. We used to sing these songs every time she sold a house. My dad was in construction. I own a construction company. I'm in mortgage finance. It's like, did that happen by accident or on purpose? I'm not sure, but I think that ultimately, when you get into business, I think you have to, if you're going to do something where your results are going to be determined by the effort that you put in, you have to have kind of that certain characteristic about yourself where you feel like you have the ability to do more or reach a higher potential. And I think I was fortunate enough to have two parents that really encouraged me in the sense where they were like, hey, you could do anything. But then when I got into the mortgage industry, they're like, why are you doing this? What's wrong? Didn't you just go to college? Why are you getting in the mortgage business? So it's interesting. Although they always really believed in me, it really took that, like I said before, that innate belief in myself, in the direction that I was going to choose in my life. And I think, my message to people that are kind of going through those moments is to know that, sometimes, again, the people around you really want to protect you. They really want to make sure you're not going to fail. And I embrace failure. I just did a podcast the other day on how the faster you fail, the faster you succeed. And it's interesting, and I'm sure you get this as well. Like when you do these podcasts, you actually are like you're reminding yourself of all these messages as you're speaking them or as you're listening to somebody. And I think one of the things I just embrace is failure and imperfection. Right? I don't need to be perfect. I don't need to be the best. I don't need to know everything, and I'm comfortable with that. I'm totally comfortable with that. I will learn faster than anybody else. I will stay focused on getting better every single time. I'm committed, I'm honest, I'm integral, I'm hardworking. And I think if you have those components and you're comfortable with all of that and with not being perfect to start and just kind of starting before you're ready, you're gonna be great. You're gonna be off to the races. It's like the podcast world is a great example. Podcasts became something that have just been bigger and bigger as time goes on. And like it's one of those things, like you might not have a million views or a million listeners, and maybe your first podcast is not going to be as great as your 100th, but you're willing to start at one. And I think that's the kind of mindset it takes to succeed in anything in life.
I totally agree. That was really powerful as well. I want to touch on that podcast and the content creation a bit as well, because
Mhm.
from me personally, creating a podcast is one of the best things I've done. And even though it doesn't give me financial rewards, it fulfills me and it helps me learn from other people, and I just get to share it. So it's kind of like, it's my gift, but it's also a gift for me, is because I get to meet amazing people and build my network, but just share that knowledge. And I love hearing the stories as well. So tell me a bit about your podcast, The Billion Dollar Banker. I know that it's a major commitment. What inspired you to start it, and what impact has it had on your business and your brand?
Yeah, I think ultimately I was inspired to start it for a few reasons. Number one, I love listening to podcasts. I'm big
Mm.
on mindset and development. I'm one of those people, like at the end of the day, when there's nothing left to do, like I'll learn something. I'll be watching a video about how to learn how to do something, reading a book, watching shorts. Really, I'm always focused on moving the dial. I always say like ambitious people, they focus on education, and people that are maybe not so ambitious, they focus on distractions, right? So I'm one of
Mm.
those people. I don't watch the same movie twice unless I absolutely have to, like my kids are begging me to watch it. Time is so important to me, and I love learning. I love taking in information and knowledge. So the love for mindset and development and growth, and then finding podcasts as a conduit to do a lot of that. Audibles, reading, like so many things that I kind of consume that really inspired me. Like, hey, I have a lot to share, right? After 20 years in business, after all of it achieved income levels that I've achieved, the success I've achieved within organizations, the successful bankers that I've coached throughout my career, the businesses I've ran. In my head, I'm like, there's so much that I can share. There's so much I share with my team. And so I said to myself, why do I want to just be one thing? Why do I want to be like binary? I want to be more than one thing. And so if all of these skill sets and these qualities can transcend to help other people and I can share it, I should. And so I've invested a lot of time, effort, energy, money in doing it. And ultimately, I think the passion behind it has really been to help other people hear these incredible stories and to kind of give the same feeling that I get when I listen to a lot of these podcasts. And you can't listen to all of them. I always say, like, you
Mm.
have to choose a few that you really love, maybe that are relatable to you for some reason. Maybe it's someone you know, maybe it's something you share in common. But the Billion Dollar Banker podcast was born with just this mission to really help inspire people and share stories very similar to what you're doing, bringing on amazing guests and having incredible conversations. And it's kind of like, in my mind, it's like a networking event, right? Where you go to a networking event, you get to meet all these people, hear all these incredible stories, but not everybody gets to do that. Some people don't have jobs where they're going to networking events, and at the end of the workday or when they're on their walk, they get to listen to things like this. And so we have guests like we have Eleonora Sugro of Selling the City coming on soon. That's a Netflix show that's out today. She's absolutely incredible. She's going to be joining us in the coming weeks. We've had stars of A&E shows that flip houses in 24 hours. We've had people that are on HGTV that have built celebrity contractors that were on episodes like Love It or Listed, and sharing their experience of like how they got shows started and how they began flipping properties. And it's not just real estate. It's health, it's personal development, it's so many things that kind of we can all tap into and use. So you guys should definitely check it out if you haven't. Linda, you should check it out if you haven't. And it's been fun. Someone said to me that hosting a podcast is like being the student in like the first row, and you get to ask all the
Mm,
questions.
yep.
You get to learn all the info, and it's fun. If you're someone that likes to learn,
Mhm.
podcasting, to your point, is another way too, like selfishly, to learn. And then clearly there's intrinsic value in just the branding and the marketing and the cross collaboration with amazing people that are all over the world. You're in Australia, I'm in New Jersey. Like, how is it's incredible. Social media has connected us, podcasting has connected us. We would never have this conversation if it wasn't for that. And so I'm so grateful for all the people I get to meet and the connections I get to have, and the audiences that we get to share, cross share with. It's amazing. So there's so many benefits in podcasting.
Yes, I totally agree on that. I wish I started it a long time ago because I've wanted to start a YouTube channel to share my business journey, especially the beginning when I had so many failures, but I never got around to it. And I started the podcast a bit late, but I've had some amazing guests and highly recommend it. But I'm curious to know, with your podcast, who's been, one of the most memorable guests, and can you share their stories, and what are the traits that you've seen that from the most successful people? Like what common traits do they have?
Good questions. By the way, you're reminding everyone that it's never too late to start. Both of us are.
Mm.
I was 13 years on mute at a bank, more of a corporate, so I was never able to do this. But I love that I can now, and I can speak freely and say what I want, and it's exciting. But that's a really great question. I think that I've had so many incredible guests, and I'm so thankful, and I've learned a lot from each of them. And you're right, there is this kind of general message that you hear from a lot of them, a lot of the same things. And I think if I were to take like maybe the top three, I think that it would be success isn't something that is final, right? And failure is not fatal. Everyone that's been on the show has talked about moments in their life where they've failed, moments in their life where they've had challenges or difficulties, and how they've overcome them. Everyone's also talked about how they've gotten to amazing points of success, and then how even though they've gotten there, it's not the end of the road. It's not the end of the journey. It's like, you think of success as like this destination, like I've reached it, I'm here, I'm successful. But the reality is now you got to stay there, and to stay there and to continue to maintain that momentum of success. It still takes a lot of hard work and a lot of dedication. And so one of the things I realized, and I'll give you an example, a real estate developer, uh, inherited his company from his family, his parents. He took it over. You might think to yourself, like from the outside, like, wow, this is amazing. Look at him. He's so lucky. He's got this company. He's inherited it, and now he just gets to run with it. But the reality is that in New Jersey, that company wasn't going to be able to excel and grow anymore for a ton of reasons. And so what he had to do was to say, wow, I have this incredible opportunity. Yes, I'm successful, but now I have to, and this comes into like the third thing here, is that you have to be ready to pivot and constantly change and redirect. And so he took 4 months off. He literally traveled the world to find traveled the country to find places where development was going to be most rewarding for his company. And so now they're in Utah, they're in Texas, they're in Florida, and he just spent time going out there and really working on the business. And so the amount of risk that took, the amount of dedicated time that took, and just the desire to continue to succeed. Like he had, like, you would think, oh my gosh, he's got it, right? But no, he had to
Mm.
keep going. So you have to be ready to change at any time. That is a constant amongst every industry, every professional. You have to know that failure is never fatal. It's never the end of the road. Failure is just feedback. And you have to also know that success is never final. And so you always have to be ready for that next thing, and you always have to still be driving forward and pushing that momentum.
Wow, that's a beautiful story too, because if you're, I always hear about what would you do if something was given to you? Like I've heard, one major billion-dollar, a billionaire in Australia, the Packer family, and the father built the business and then he gave it to his son. And
Hmm.
it's just what the son does with it, if you can make it grow or not. And because sometimes when it's given to us, it doesn't feel like we've earned it, you know what I mean? So we have to, and I guess the guest that you were just talking about, he's making sure that he's not losing it, that wealth, and then
Hmm.
expanding it. Because you hear stories how sometimes when wealth is given to, like, inherited, the
Hmm.
person that inherits it loses that wealth and doesn't
Hmm.
appreciate it as hard because they didn't go through all the grit of building it and going through the tough times. So congrats on that person that was able to expand it. I love hearing those success stories when a business expands as well. I'm also curious to know, success. How do you define success? And you've achieved so much in life, and you know everyone has their own definition of success. But how would you personally define success?
Well, I'd say that you have to do the hard things in order to have the things that are hard to obtain in life. And I think some of the things that are the hardest to have in life is freedom and flexibility and choice. And I think those are like kind of my main drivers for success for me. And I think for everybody, as you said, it's different. I think it's where your what you feel like your potential is meets your kind of your vision and your blueprint for your life. And so everyone's vision is very different. I think the important thing is to make sure that you're not limiting your vision and that you're not topping your potential. And I think sometimes there could be a little self-sabotage that goes into that, like only feeling like you only deserve so much, or
Mm.
feeling like maybe you can't do more. And so that's why I think we really have to continue to be radically open-minded, but not necessarily easily persuaded, but ready to be willing to know that we can achieve whatever it is we set out to achieve in our lives. I think as long as you have that fundamental belief that your success is wherever you mark the line after that point. But I think it has to start with knowing that I can achieve whatever it is I set forth to do. And I think one of the most powerful stories on the podcast from one of my guests had an incredibly traumatic experience as a young boy. His father, in the middle, he had two brothers, he was the middle brother, and in the middle of the night he heard screams, came down the stairs, and his father was murdering his mom, stabbing her right in front of him. He was watching it. He tried to stop it, he couldn't. His dad told him, get back in the room. He didn't know what to do. He didn't know if he should wake up his brothers. He just kind of was frozen there.
Oh my
Ultimately,
gosh.
it's just insane, like the worst story you could ever think of hearing. His father then gets them, puts all the kids in the cars. We got to go get your brothers. We're going in the car. Don't bring your shoes. Just get in the car. He proceeds to drive at like 80 miles an hour into an overpass, into a bridge, and so attempting, I guess, to just kind of end the rest of the family there. The children survived. Everybody survived. The father went to jail, and so he tells the story about how in one day he lost both of his parents just immediately. And
Wow.
he talks about that story because, well, I mean, it's a big part, I think, of maybe what shaped his opinion about things in life. But he tells that story like to never be a victim, and that he
Mm.
wasn't going to allow this 12-hour period in his life, this one day event, to impact him for the rest of his life. And the story just kind of gets harder as he goes on. His father ends up killing himself in jail. So he really, really lost his dad for sure at that point. And then his father had schizophrenia, and that was, I guess, the crux of everything. But his brother ended up having schizophrenia too, and his brother ended up committing suicide as well. And so now it's just him and his one other brother. He's lost 75% of his direct family at a really young age. And he talks about his story again with that concept of like so many listeners that have gone through so many things in their life, and sometimes that affects us forever, whatever that incident was or that challenge. And so his message is like, don't be a victim, don't let one thing that happens in your life impact your whole life when it's just a tiny fragment. It may have been such an impactful time, but it's a tiny fragment of your whole life. So I just think it was such an inspiring story. He's so successful today, a real estate investor, an educator, a coach, a business
Wow.
owner. And so what the amount of success that he's achieved in his life is inspirational in general. But then when you add that kind of that trauma to triumph, it was just a story. I was incredibly blessed that he shared it on the podcast and so openly. But it's a big part of his story, and people hear it and they're just like, I'll never complain about anything ever again. You know.
Wow, that is just so powerful. My gosh, that when you told me that, I was just getting goosebumps. And,
Mm.
like, I've heard some traumatic stories, and people can easily become victims because that could stay with the
Hmm.
person, especially a young person, for life.
Oh
But
yeah.
whether or not they choose to just move, I don't know, he would have had to have a lot of therapy, or maybe that mindset was so powerful to be able to flip it from victim to use that pain as growth. And that's what I love these stories as well, turning pain into purpose and just channeling that. But wow, that was
Hmm.
deep. I might have to get his details after so I can follow who he
Yeah,
was
I think he's
because,
phenomenal. Yeah, I'm happy to send it to you. He's amazing, inspirational. And yeah, so when you hear stories like that, when you're hosting podcasts or when you're listening to things, those are the reminders of like what we can really achieve in our life and what we can really do, and maybe some of the things that might be getting in the way. I heard the other day this kind of uh, metaphor that or purpose, like how do you find your purpose in life, right? And you've each of us are born with like this little bag of tricks. We have two tricks in the bag, right? One is an incredible gift that we're born with, and the other is this incredible challenge, that this difficulty that we possess, meaning that we all have this place that we excel, and this place where maybe we have this thing that it's hard to overcome, and that your purpose oftentimes is what combines the two of those things. It combines your greatest gift, and it also combines your biggest challenge. And so I thought that was so powerful when thinking about, like you said, pain to purpose, right? How do you kind of take the things you're struggling with or suffering with or having an issue with, and then also this gift that you have, and put them together to create what feels like your purpose, what you're really empowered to want to do in your life. And so that just stuck out to me. And like for him, when you see somebody that's using that story as a platform to share and help others, taking something, his talent of being able to speak and being able to educate, and then also to motivate. But one of these things that he kind of had this struggle that he was just had to deal with in life. And so combining them and watching someone do that, that's how you kind of know, you could see the purpose is there.
I mean, like, when you told me that story, it kind of like reminded me of my, I've had a pretty crazy traumatic experience growing up as well. I haven't always had the best life, but I think all the painful moments, I only shared my story once, and I'll start doing it again. The more courage I feel, because I was always ashamed of my story. But I was raised by a single mother, and my two brothers have mental illnesses. One's got schizophrenia, one's got epilepsy. And she came over by boat to Australia, and we almost died on the trip. So
Oh
we
my
were
goodness.
refugees. Yeah, like
Oh
it
wow.
was pretty bad. But that's not. We grew up poor. We grew up in a bad neighborhood, and I turned to drugs, and I hung around the wrong people. I got on heroin. I was a heroin addict for over 10 years. I was a drug
Ooh.
dealer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was selling on the streets, and I got robbed by gunpoint. I've had a knife at my face, like, and dragged as well halfway through the car. And I never thought I'd get out of that addiction. And lucky it was,
Wow.
yeah. And then eventually, finally, I got busted with an ounce in my pocket, and got arrested. And that was the detox moment. I tried detox many times before that, but I've seen moments when you said that stabbing. My mum had a boyfriend that tried to kill her as well, and I
Oh
jumped in, like,
man.
I haven't shared this story, but when I was young, I jumped in on top of her to protect her from getting killed as well. So that's why I'm like,
Oh
I can
wow.
relate to that.
Wow.
And she didn't die, but that's why when you said the
Thank
traumatic,
God.
when she died, that would, luckily, thank God, she didn't die. But because of my addiction, she did disown me, and so um, I've
Oh,
had
wow.
to, when I lost everything, I had to, go to prison, got clean, and I kept on praying to God, and I kept on saying, God, don't let me go out of prison until you know that I will never touch drugs again. And since then, I've slowly worked my way up, and I've
Wow.
started to, like, I was a high school dropout, a teenage mum as well. And
Oh,
so
wow.
I've had a lot of challenges in life, but that's how
What a
I've been able.
turnaround. What a
Yes.
turnaround. And what an inspirational story that you should absolutely share more often, because
Mm,
that story is just, it's so, I just think the story that really resonates with people is exactly that kind of a story. The story of somebody that you couldn't really have probably gotten any lower in your life at that time, and then it's like, look at where you're at today, and what you're
mm,
doing and how you're impacting people. And I don't think we're put on a path for, I think we're put on a path for a reason in our lives. And so I hope that that message can, I can't imagine how difficult it was to try to kick an addiction like that. And so you're an
mm.
incredibly strong person. And so
I've used
congratulations.
that addiction for a different purpose now, and it's like being like now I'm a totally different person. I've changed, flipped, and I use the health. I'm addicted to looking after my health and learning. I love learning and becoming an entrepreneur. Like after I went to prison, I lost everything and I had to slowly work my way back up. And I got into corporate roles, and I've been in sales, and I've worked at Yahoo after that. They don't know my story, but thank goodness I've been an entrepreneur for 5 years now.
Good thing they didn't
But
ask you that question you asked me. So tell me about tell me about who you were when you were younger. Like, what's the difference?
yes, yeah, that's why. And so I think no, when you said success, you're gonna keep building, it never stops, and I totally agree because for me, my mission now is to grow the podcast, but also I've got my own little business and I'm trying to expand. Like I've got vending machine businesses and I want to become a global franchise. Like you've got to think big. At
Hmm.
first, it starts small, but the limiting beliefs and the self-sabotage, when you mentioned that too, I thought, oh, I do that as well. But I think the key is to become more self-aware. But I'm
Hmm.
curious to know, have you ever had that self-sabotage moment? And how did you talk about, like, how did you flip that as well? Because the mindset there, a lot of people subconsciously, I did it subconsciously, self-sabotaging as well, until I
Hmm.
realized and learned about it. And
Hmm.
sometimes I
No.
still do it as well.
Yeah, I think sometimes, like, if we're honest, we all the sabotage in my mind is like, it's fear and doubt, right? And it's fear and doubt will just, if you let that record play, it's just gonna, it will deter you from moving forward. It's the killer of your dreams, is doubt and fear. And so I think that my biggest fear, though, conversely, I think was always like fear of success. I've spoke about that before. So it's like, okay, if my vending machine business does become global, I'm going to give you a new fear now today. You're going to be like, what's fear of success? How am I going to handle it all? And how is it going to impact my relationships in my life and my free time and,
Mm.
my relationship with my child or my spouse or my friends? And I'm not going to have, things are going to change, right? How is it going to change me? How is it going to change, uh, the things that I'm able to do and not do? How am I gonna handle it all? That I'm gonna have to hire people, and then how am I gonna find them? And so it's that fear of, oh my God, if this does work and I do make it happen, can I handle it once I get there? And I think it's that reminder for yourself to say, when I get there, when it happens, as it happens, I will figure it out. And I think that's, life is so much about that. Like, when something happens, I'm going to figure out how to deal with it. I'm going to be able to handle it, whatever it is. Whatever it is in life, I will find my way through it. And I think if we look back at so many of the difficulties we've all experienced in our lives, that we've gotten through them. And at the time, it feels like, and I'm sure your story, it feels like you're never going to get past it. Like, you couldn't even imagine where you are today, but you get there. And so for anyone out there, I think it's kind of identifying, to your point, that sense of awareness. I think you have to keep surrounding yourself and putting yourselves in environments all the time where you're working on growth, and you are so self-aware. I've done so many personal seminars and business seminars that really force you to take a look at the things that you have to work on, And I think I probably don't do enough of that, and I should do even more. I think I always say like all of us should do like one personal development type of a event or seminar or something that's going to change us and shake us up. There's something really powerful about being in a space, and whether that's a meditation retreat, a silent retreat, a Tony Robbins event, whatever it may be,
Mm.
an experience that you can really immerse yourself into can be just forever life changing. It could be 20 years of therapy in 2 to 3 days. And those are the things that
Mm.
really move the dial. A lot of times we're searching for the answers, like we're reading a book or we're listening to something, and those things are good, but it's like, you could read a book on how to swim and watch a video about how someone can swim, but swimming is much more powerful of an experience being in it. And so I think everyone should do a little bit of that as often as they
Yeah,
can. Yeah,
I totally agree. And that scaling thing with the fear of success and, thinking global, I guess the first thing is just to take that small step and just do one small thing and just build and build and build, because that's how you get started, by just overcoming that fear and just doing that one thing that's going to help you achieve that goal, like eventually. So
agree.
that's for me, my personal experience anyway. But I
Agree.
do like that, what you mentioned about going to seminars and whatnot. Do you have somebody that's been a big mentor or a huge inspiration? You mentioned Tony Robbins. Do you have any books or somebody that's hugely impacted, the way you think in your life and your growth?
I'd say that I think like as time goes on, it starts to change. Like it's almost like you have this board of directors, and it starts to change. In my 20s, Tony Robbins, I was going to so many of his seminars, listening to so many of his books. I think that was really really life changing. I used to I went to this it's called Pathways seminars. I don't even know if they exist anymore. It was an amazing, just immersive experience that really taught you a lot about personal development. And then as far as like kind of like my board of directors today, I'd say some of the people that I really look to are people that are in like the podcast world or in the social media world. But I gleaned so much insight from like Gary Vaynerchuk, somebody that I listen to often. Mel Robbins is someone I listen to often. Um, Ed Milet is someone that I listen to
Mhm.
often. Um, I think Gary Vee is just amazing. I think he's awesome. But so many people that like I'm just inspired. Alex Hormozy I've been listening to a lot. I really enjoy listening to him. And then as far as like books, I'd say the most impactful ones that I've read aren't even business books. They're more personal development. I love the book The Four Agreements. I don't know if you've
Mm.
ever read
Yes, I
that.
read that. Yeah.
That's an awesome book. I love anything that's about mindset, working with people, and some of the classics. Like some books are literally just like they're like Bibles. Like you just go back in and you kind of reread, just even if it's an excerpt, and it can kind of change your perspective or your path or refresh you on something. And so I just think we have to keep learning. I think those people I mentioned are phenomenal examples of people that I think are sharing authentically, really working to help others. And there's a lot of thought leaders in the space of business. And so it's kind of like depending on I kind of look for mentors, I'd say like in each kind of segment of what I'm excited about doing. So when it comes to like the social media world and the marketing world, there's people I'm really listening to there, and the real estate development and building businesses. And there's people that I listen to there, more frequently. I listen to Grant Cardone a lot when it comes to real estate investing. I think he's phenomenal. I think he grew an amazing business, undebatable. And so I think you can glean a lot of insight. It's crazy the amount of information people are sharing today. They're just figuring out how to really parse it all together and not
Yeah, totally.
overloading.
Yeah, I'm the same. I have different podcasts that I love listening to, and for different things, because I'm getting into spirituality lately too. But I love business podcasts and self development ones as well. But a few of my favorites are Lewis Howes. I listen to
He's
Doak,
great.
Ed Milet. Ed Milet. Hormozy, I've got him as well. But yeah, Know Thyself, and yeah, there's just so many different. Like we can learn so much in this day and age now. It's just incredible that
Hmm.
that we have all this at our like a click of a button. So
I
I'm also
notice a
curious
lot
to
of
know.
people that I follow, like just I don't know why. Like I just notice a lot of people like Lewis Holmes as an example doesn't drink, has never drank a day in his life. Patrick Bet David is somebody else I listen to quite a bit. I think
Mm,
I love, I mean, he built an incredible life insurance business and sold it and now is part owner in the Yankees, has an awesome podcast. And I think he's just nailed it. He's just like doing everything right. But he doesn't drink. And you kind of start to see that as like, wow, there's a little bit of a common theme here. Grant doesn't really drink. Grant Cardone doesn't really drink. Like
mm.
maybe he'll hold a glass every now and then, but like it's just not. It's they're so focused on and like back to kind of addiction. Like if you can take or ADHD or any deficiency, any addiction, any challenge, like if you could take that and point it in the right direction, I mean, it's insane what you can do. And so I think that like this world's kind of always pulling us trying to pull us backwards, right? And so sometimes you have to go against the grain and kind of be that black sheep. And
Mm.
you see those common trends. It's like if some of the people that are achieving some of the most incredible things aren't touching alcohol, maybe I shouldn't either, you know?
Do you have any rituals or routines that you can't live by without, I mean, live without, such as meditating or reading? Like some people
We're
have certain rituals of prayer.
Yeah. I think now for me it's like it's just working out. Like if I can't like keep that routine, I it just it's like I'm at the point where like I just it doesn't I don't feel myself. I don't feel good. I feel like they're like I haven't met the accomplishments of the day. So you know, just I've been weightlifting for maybe like 5 years now, consistently every week, you know, 4 or 5 times, 6 times a week, constantly changing up my workouts. I think it's such a big part of mindset and just like setting that foundation for the day and just that like doing something that you don't always feel like doing. And but just doing it anyway. And you know, it was the other day. There's all these like metaphors when I'm at the gym. I'm like when I'm on the treadmill, right, and I'm just like walking, and then someone gets on next to me and they start running. Like I start running, and I
Mm.
realize that like there's something about environment that's so important. And so I was thinking about that the other day. I'm like, and just doing the hard things like you know, working out every part of your body, right? Like most people hate leg days, but if you're not working on your legs, that's the biggest muscle group in your body. And so there's kind of that metaphor in business. It's like you can't just do only the things you're most comfortable doing and avoid the things that you hate. You still have to do the things you hate, and leg day is something that most people hate. So now I'm like, I'll do like a little bit of legs more often instead of like just one day that's dedicated to it because it kind of deters me a little bit. So I think there's it's like the whole concept: make your bed in the morning, right? You make your bed, and like it's the first thing you did to set the day. If you could do the small things, you could do the big things.
Yes, I totally agree with that. I'm curious to know the vision for your future, you know, with AI and everything disrupting the industries, a lot of industries. I was reading today something in an email about eventually, you know, we won't need doctors and whatnot too. So you can
Yeah.
get therapy with, you can get so many things done with AI. What are your thoughts on that, and how are you leveraging it, the AI, for growth for your businesses and companies?
Yeah, it's an awesome question. I think we probably have another 10 years before most of what we do is probably not going to be around. We're not going to have. I mean, maybe this will be one of those videos I look back on and say I was wrong. But I think ultimately, I heard Elon Musk say the other day, like in 10 years from now, he thinks most people, you know, like won't be working and like there won't be costs for goods and services because goods and services will be free. And so because machines will do it all, right? So like they'll make the crops and they'll produce everything. They'll make it. You don't have to pay for labor. There's no cost to
Mm.
supply. So everything's just kind of just going to be free, and we won't be working. And so I think he said that the hardest thing will be like, well, what is our purpose? What do we do? Right? We're so tied to what we do for a living. I really struggle with education and how we're teaching our children now, knowing that and still kind of knowing that so much has changed and we haven't really evolved with it. But I think all of our industries are certainly at some point likely going to be compromised in some way, shape, or form. And so I think that's even more motivation to keep going now and to stay ahead and to really focus on what's happening, how you can use AI today. We're in a very fortunate time where we're able to use it. I think AI will kind of be a bit in the background, and the people that are really embracing it are going to really use it, and that's going to help them excel. But I think we're just going to be like making AI smarter, so it's going to keep pushing up closer and closer. They talk about how like 90% of cars are going to be autonomous, and you know, there's going to be so much that's different. So we might be living in a
And
world where there's,
it's advancing so
yeah,
fast now
yeah,
too, because like with the content, you can just the creativity in there. It's just
hmm
it's so competitive, the industry, but it's advancing at a rapid, fast speed. So, you've got to be on it and leverage it and keep up with it. Otherwise,
hmm
a lot of people are just going to fall behind.
yeah. Gary Vee said the other day, he's like, you're probably like your grandchild or your great grandchild will date a robot one day. So
Wow, wow,
get ready for that.
that's crazy.
Yeah, there was a horrible story recently with AI, and it's like character AI or something. This young kid who like started online kind of like dating this like character AI. It wasn't even really a person. It was just an AI bot that was like it was explicit. They like he fell in love with this AI bot, and then somehow this character like convinced this child to kill himself, and the kid ended up killing himself. He's 13 years old. It was on the news. And now there's this whole lawsuit against character AI, and so I think we're going to have to really be careful. It's like really going to be a lot of people that are influenced negatively by AI too. And just like any evolution of anything that we have in our lives, we have to, any media, and we go all back to radio and television and like, parental guidance on, the CDs and rated R versus PG-13. I mean, there's so many things that are going to come out that we have to figure out how to use it. We have to embrace it, and we have to just be careful of it too. Just get ready because
Yeah,
it's, I do think I'm
yeah,
hearing some in sales too. You have some incredible AI software I mean, it follows up. They have incredible conversations, and so there's going to be a lot to change. A lot.
yeah. That's crazy. Even a sales job, everyone's job is going to be compromised. But
Yeah.
wow, that story. I think we have to just educate. And you know, when you told me that story about the child, we need to educate our kids as well
hmm
and
Good
prepare
point.
them. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Um, I know we're running out of time. This has been a phenomenal conversation, so I really appreciate you. And guys, if you're listening, if there's any key messages, any stories that resonated, please comment. If you're watching on YouTube, just comment and tell us what resonated the most. And if you're listening on the podcast, please do me a favor and hit that follow button. It does really help, and I can bring on more great guests as well. Finally, I just wanted to ask, for someone starting out in business today, what's the most important piece of advice you'd give them about building a sustainable, fulfilling career?
I think it kind of goes back to that purpose conversation we had is really finding something that is going to compel you. I think it kind of sounds like hokey a little bit, like do what you love
Oh,
and
we forgot to ask also. Sorry.
wow,
Yeah, yeah.
that's okay.
The signs of luck remind me of. Oh, sorry for cutting you out. But
No,
yeah,
that's
go
fine.
continue on.
No, that's a good one to end with maybe. But yeah, so ultimately you don't have to do the things that you love to do. You could just do the things that kind of make you a living. But I think ultimately you have to find something that's going to compel you to want to keep going because life and business is so hard. Keep learning, stay resilient, do something that you're really going to wake up and want to do, especially if it's your own business. And just keep believing in what you can accomplish and keep learning. That's the best advice I could give.
I love that. That's powerful. Um, Before we go, we mentioned the science of luck before the conversation. Give
Mhm.
us a quick overview about that and what your thoughts are about it.
The science of luck. So you create your own luck in your life. And some people think that luck is magical and mystical force of chance occurrence, and it's really not. It's actually something that you can control. And there's a formula, and the formula to luck is very simple. It's preparation plus opportunity plus bold action equals luck. And so, in whatever it is that you want to do in your life, whatever kind of luck you want to create, if you spend enough time preparing and doing the groundwork and studying the skills and laying the foundation and really trying to grow to become what it is that you want to be, all that hard work, all that foundational growth, you do the prep, then you need to put yourself in environments where opportunity will be accessible. You need to have the mindset of somebody that is looking for opportunity. So we use this example of two people that walk into a coffee shop, one person sitting down looking at their phone scrolling. The other person is strikes a conversation with a stranger and forms this great rapport. And by the end of the discussion, the person that started the conversation with a stranger has an incredible job offer on the table. And so you look at those two people and you think to yourself, well, who was most open-minded? Who was looking for opportunity around them? And who was maybe more distracted, right? I think we froze. I don't know if it's just you or me.
Yep.
I think we froze for a sec.
It's back on.
Okay.
Yep. It's
So
all right. The final
essentially
piece will be fine. Yeah.
you have to have the mindset to want. Okay. So you have to have the
It's all right.
mindset,
You keep going.
you have to be looking for opportunity, and then when you find it, you have to take bold action to go after it. And so the more that you do that, the more times you apply that formula in your life, the more you create environments where luck can thrive. And so that's really the concept behind the science of luck. And there's all these studies and amazing people that have conducted 10-year studies on luck. And what they've found is that the luckier people tend to have broader social networks and to be more open-minded. And it's like one of those things where you realize that, okay, sometimes I'm prepared and sometimes opportunity comes my way, but I never take action. And so if you're prepared and there's opportunity, make sure you take action. And if action alone isn't enough, make sure you take bold action. Send that extra message, make that extra call, do that one extra follow up, and recognize that sometimes it's all about repeating that cycle, because you could prepare, you could have opportunity, you could take bold action, and sometimes you fail. And I love the story about Dyson, the guy that started the Dyson vacuum cleaners. I don't know if you have those in Australia, but maybe you do.
Mhm.
The bagless vacuum cleaner is what he created. It took him 5,000 failed attempts at creating this vacuum cleaner before he actually got the prototype right. And then once he did, he went to all these places to try to, like, pitch them on, hey, I have this great, I'm going to revolutionize the vacuum industry. And nobody cared. Nobody wanted it. So he started his own business. And now, he changed the vacuum cleaner game. Nobody has a bag on their vacuum cleaner, the billion-dollar business. And so it's his story is the 5,000 failures to success. And so rinse and repeat. Think of the quote by Thomas Edison where he says, I found I haven't ever failed. I've just found 10,000 ways not to do something, right? And so failure is feedback. Rinse and repeat that science of luck formula, and you'll create more luck in your life.
I love it. That was so powerful. I'm going to look into that Dyson story too. Thank you for sharing that. This has
Sure.
been a real pleasure. I'm so thankful for your time, Nicole. Where can people find you and follow you and connect with you?
So you can find me at the Billion Dollar Banker on all platforms. We're on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, you name it. There's like 100 of them now. We would love for you to come check us out, check out what we're doing. We were so excited to be on this podcast with you, and it was an absolute pleasure to come on. I love what you're doing. People should follow, like, subscribe. Love everything that you have going on. Your story's incredible too. Keep sharing it, and I'm really grateful that we got the opportunity to meet, and I hope your audience got something good out of this.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time, Nicole.
You're welcome.